Hey everyone, it's me again, Robyn, and I'm doing another animation reviews tonight. I missed the last couple of weeks because work was just insanely busy. I've been working non-stop, so that's why I haven't been doing these, but I'm back. Yay. Hope you're all having a great week. Please let me know if you can hear me because I never can tell until somebody tells me. So just let me know in the comments. You can just type in there. Yeah, we can hear you. Okay, cool. So I'm going to start. Today I'm doing a review on the submission of Paulo Caruso. Let me switch over to show you guys his clips. There we go. So I've got this over in Sketch already, but you can see his profile over here. I got his stuff from the rookie site, and he is a player. He joined in November 2019. So let's go over to Sketch, and I'm just going to play this for you guys so you can see it. Just run through it once. Okay, so I did it twice. You can see it's a very impactful shot. It's great with the dynamic camera moves. I really love those camera moves. It really makes it a lot less boring. Not that it was boring, but a lot of the time you look at like people's reels and they just have one locked off camera, and you know a shot can be made a lot more dynamic just by having camera moves on. So I really do enjoy that camera move you've got going on there. And he's got some really strong key poses. So that's really good, but you know, I'm here to give some critiques so that shots can be made even better, even though they're already great. So I'm going to just dive into that for you. I'll just find my pen here. Okay. So what I have noticed just from playing it through like this is that there's quite a lot of motion blur on, and it detracts a little from some of the movements in between. There's some parts where it's quite intense, like over here you see that's quite an intense motion blur. And it stops you from seeing any of those small finer details that can make a shot like really great. You know, a person watching, their subconscious doesn't even pick it up, but those little finer details are what make shots seem more believable. So just be careful if you are using stuff that it's not too extreme and that it matches the speed. I get that over here you're trying to get that effect of how quick he is, because he's an expert and he's doing his stuff really slick, really fast. So it's definitely necessary. And I'm not saying take it off completely. I'm just saying it is a little strong in some spots where it can get just a little bit messy. So I like over here where you've got that little weight shift as he prepares that anticipation. You can see here the hips are moving counter to the shoulders, which makes it a very strong pose. And now in the moves throughout, I noticed that there's a little bit lack of sort of overlapping action and follow through on these. So I get that you want to have it so that it's really precise because he knows what he's doing. You know, his body is finely tuned to these moves. So he locks into position, but there would always be some overlapping action with limbs. So, and just follow through on like weight and, you know, redistributing your weights and stuff like that. So as he comes over and he settles into that position, there isn't actually any settle. It just kind of, his foot goes down and it locks off. So there could just be a little bit more of that overlapping action there. And the arms could also just be very slightly offset when they dock where they are. So here, as he lowers his foot down and his weight comes down, he could bob down very slightly and then come back up as he settles into the position. So I noticed as well as I watched through that the poses happen quite fast actually. And now I've watched this a few times over, so it's not as obvious, but it was one of the first things I thought as I watched it was that the poses don't have much breathing room in between. And that would just give it a little more impact if you had it settle into a pose and then let it breathe just a slight bit longer. The timing does change for each one, but it actually happens in quite fast succession. So I would just give like each one just a little bit more breathing room over there as well, just so that they can all get their proper impact. So again, sort of here I would have some overlapping action there with the hands. You're not going to have every single limb lock into place at exactly the same time. And it really does add a little bit more interest, a little more believability to your character's movements if you do have stuff slightly offset, slightly overlapping, and not everything happening at exactly the same time. It looks over there like there is a slight bob on this arm as the camera comes around. You can see there it kind of goes down and comes back up. So just a little bit more of that sort of movement. I'm not sure if that was intentional. I noticed that there is a bit of facial animation going on here, like over there. That's very nice. That's cool how he closes his eyes there, because I mean, you would going into an extreme movement, you close your eyes, blink. Maybe over here you could have just a little bit of a narrowing of the eyes because he's just staring straight ahead with that expression for quite a long time. And it would kind of, if it would be, it's sort of just before these rocks shoot off, if he just narrowed his eyes to just show, you know, there's that thought process there happening. There would be some sort of facial giveaway. So just a little slight narrowing of the eyes or something like that, or a slight lowering of the eyebrows. I like how his eyes dart to the side over there just before that last rock shoots off. That's quite nice also. Okay, over here, I noticed that there is a bit of a break in the arm over there as it comes up and around. That does not seem like a natural pose at all, and it breaks that nice smooth line you would have. And it is a little bit noticeable as it goes around. I know it's very fast, but it does just break that nice smooth movement there. You should always be aware of like what a human body can and can't do without breaking. You know? Okay, this kick, it sort of starts as a front kick, but it ends as a roundhouse kick. And from that position, it actually, I mean, if it was doing a front kick, it would come with the knee front forward, the knee first, and then kick out. So it is a roundhouse kick, but you need to have the hips swiveling before they do, because at the moment they're still facing forward. They would have started swiveling already to face the camera, face the viewer. So you need to have the hips sort of rotating there. Hips start rotating, then the shoulders start rotating, and that momentum brings that back leg forward into the kick. And you're missing a very good opportunity here for a very beautiful arc coming up behind him as that leg comes up. Like a roundhouse kick would come, it kind of comes around and they lift the leg and it comes around in that arc. just be aware of arcs throughout all these sorts of movements. Even this arm over here, it pivots around, but there isn't much of an arc movement after that. It kind of goes straight up. See there, kind of goes straight up like that. And this foot also here, it would have a little bit of overlapping action as it flicks forward. So that's also part of, you know, the kick, that momentum. The foot is bent backwards. You can't see here, but it would be bent backwards. Does that make sense? I don't know. That's not a very good foot. But anyway, I think you get the gist of it. It would bend backwards, and then it would flick forward a little. And you could have this a little bit more up like that to give more impact to that kick. And a bit of a stronger silhouette over here. And just watch your knee and your ankle pivoting here, because now your hip should already be like facing a lot more forward. This knee should already be pivoting a lot more, and this foot should be turning also by now. But this is also quite a sort of broken looking pose, and the knee should possibly be oriented a little bit more in that direction, just to give him a bit more of a stronger stance, and his foot would also be pointing more that way. It's a little bit of a squash here, which is nice. Then he leaps up. Chin. Yeah, that's a nice pose at the top there. And then when he comes down here, he sort of prematurely is in his pose before his foot has even hit the ground. He's sort of landed exactly the way he's going to land. So you should have this foot kind of, let's say by frame 111, this should be more extended, and this toe is touching the ground. Then it would flatten sort of, yeah, oh gosh. Then it would flatten on the ground here, bent knee, and then after that, the next foot would touch the ground and not already be in position the way it is here. It would kind of slap down, heel first and then toe. So not kind of just lands perfectly in position there. So just a little bit more of that overlapping action there. And also just a little more on the arm, a bit more follow through there as the arm comes up, because it's also like perfectly snapped into position. I like how that arm swings forward there, over there. You know, I keep doing this thing to the timeline. Nothing even. Okay, so what I wanted to do is just play here where he pops up. He could squish down just a little more there. Well, not squish, I don't mean actually squish him, but he could bob down just a little bit more there in anticipation of that little pop up that he's then going to do. And then over there, you could extend that one leg just a little more, that back leg. Bit more of a dynamic pose to have these a little more offset, these legs here. And then you see there as it lands, you can definitely see the foot sliding. And there isn't, that's why this foot should be a little more extended, so that when the foot actually lands, then his knee can bend a little more as he settles his weight onto his foot. And then he can sort of shift his weight a little backwards onto that leg that he's on now. And then as he settles there, he could have a little bit more of a shift forward as his weight settles. And then again here, just a little bit more weight to that shifting of the pose. like his knees need to take a bit of that shock absorption. I mean, it's not he's jumping or anything, but the knees do readjust and sort of settle into a pose. And his hips are just a little stiff here as well. And then I really like this little comedic bit at the end, because he's like standing here feeling like the man, and we're all like, whoa, did he just do that? That's amazing. And then this little pebble like knocks him on the pope. That was pretty funny, but I would just have him settle a little more, like basking in his own glory for just like maybe a second or two longer. We're all like, shit. And then that thing falls down, and that'll just give it a little bit more like impact to that comedic moment there. And just have a little bit more like follow through that action where his head tips forward, follow that through to his shoulders a little bit more, have his shoulders raised up and have him sort of slump down a little bit. So it can actually translate through into his entire body as he's like, what? You know, as it hits his head and pops off to the side. And also just have him sort of be, as it hits his head and bounces off, don't have him look to the side so quickly. Have him still be like, it hits his head and he's like, WTF, and then he turns his head after like just a little bit of time for his brain to register that something actually happened and went off to that direction. So just give that a little more space there to breathe as well, and just have a little bit more impact. So those are my notes for this shot. I mean, it's a great shot, as I said already. I really like it. It's cute. That little end bit is very cool. And it's nice to like bring a bit of your personality into your shots and your reel. It's always a good idea to kind of show that you have a sense of humor, or like something a little bit different about you. Like when people are sitting looking through like hundreds of reels, it's nice to get one that stands out a little, because you can see that person has a sense of humor and they're going to bring a little bit of their own personality into a shot. So let me move on to this now. It's a run cycle. So these are notoriously difficult. I mean, walk cycle's bad enough when you're learning. Now you have to go and do a freaking run cycle. So this is cool. It's nice that it's not just, you know, running straight ahead on a field. He's got that part where he has to regain his balance and turn around there, and he's got his little prop, his ball. He kind of starts right off the bat, but you don't actually realize that he's going to start jumping into this run, because he doesn't really look ready for it. He should be a little further down on his, like his knees should be bent a little more, his body a little bit more forward, preparing to push off of that back foot so that he can set off on his run. At the moment, he doesn't look that prepared for it. And you could just make this pose a little stronger by bringing this arm out more, so it's not flush against his body. So bring in some negative space here, have this arm out like that with the ball in his hand, so that you've got some space here, and it'll give you a bit of a stronger pose there to start with. Now, as he sets off, he kind of needs just a little bit more power behind. So again, that would have helped with if his knees had started off a little bit more bent. And then this leg going forward here, that front leg, that should be quite a bit more extended for a run, because the typical, you know, characteristics of a run is that you're sort of extending your limbs, because you're really trying to get a lot of power and speed behind your movement. So your limbs are going to be a lot more extended. And just watch little things like over here, this arm, it looks just kind of like a tiny baby arm has been stuck to his body because of the angle there. So the way this hand is turned towards us, I know it might look good from a different angle, but from the specific camera angle that we have, it might be better to have the fist turned less towards the camera, so more away from the camera and maybe just slightly up like that, give it a bit of a stronger running pose than what it is right now. So again, extend the leg. It kind of does, it looks like a bit of a hop in pose, but I guess it's not, because it's just the way his body is moving forward, but his legs really should be extended a lot more for the run, and that would help that also. He should also, as he runs, have his leg, this leg, you know, just after it's lifted off the ground, it should actually be more like that, like bent backwards. And then as it comes and prepares to hit the ground, then it will come upwards. So it would be leg extended a bit more and the foot is pointed more upwards. And again, I extend that leg again. There's a bit of a thing happening here with the arm, this arm, where it's sort of like bobs. You see that there? And there's a lot of opportunities missed here for like good strong arcs, especially in a run. You can get such nice, smooth, wide arcs, which is not really happening here. The arms are getting held very close to the body when they should also be kind of coming round, swooping in these nice arcs as he runs. Same thing with the feet and the legs. So there as he skids, that back arm, there's quite a, looks like a bit of a glitch there as it sort of flings backwards very quickly. I get that he's probably, you know, you're trying to convey the feeling of him trying to rectify his weight there as he skids, but it just comes across more, it's like a glitch. So I would limit that back and forth over there and have maybe just one, he's like, whoa, and then he like brings his arm forward. So the weight here is pretty good. Just re-looking this pose, it would be a lot stronger if you had him facing a little more towards the camera, hips turned a bit more towards the camera, so that you could have him sort of sideways, have his head sort of out more like that, his arm would be out and the back like that, and then this arm could be out a little bit more like that. Hips like this as he skids. And then you just have a bit more freedom to have more negative space in between the legs there, because you see there's not much over here. Everything's kind of crunching together, especially as it comes there. So if you just had him slightly turned a little bit more towards the camera, that would give it a bit more of a dynamic pose. And over here, as he falls, this arm comes forward to sort of, you know, anticipate that he might need to break his fall with his hands, but this one stays up in the air that entire time. So it would actually come forward as well as it sort of feels like maybe it needs to break its fall. Like if you're like walking down the stairs and you're going to fall, you usually will put up both your hands. So it just looks a little messy, just sticking up out there, and a little unnatural how it just sort of sticks up and flops around. So you could have this one come down and then this one would bring forward afterwards. So over here, the weight, he could be a little bit more backwards and have a little bit more bend to this knee, just to give a little more impact as well to that feeling of he almost lost his balance. His knees sort of bend to brace for that and kind of regain the balance there. I really like his facial expression. That's very cool. He's like, oh, shiz. And then he's like, I'm okay. His foot should be flat on the ground a little bit longer here, like it should still be flat here. And then he can sort of leap up off it. But this back one also lifts a little too soon. That could also be down just a few frames longer. And here you're missing another great opportunity for a very dramatic arc as he brings his arm up and straight over like that. And this one could also come as like a counter arc to like give himself sort of that momentum, almost like a trebuchet sort of effect to really pound that ball down and throw it down like really fast to be super dramatic. At the moment it looks a little weak. So yeah, it would be like up here and the ball would be coming out really fast. This landing over here feels like there's a bit of an ease in there that shouldn't be in there. It's a little slow. That straightening of the legs also over there is just a little kind of breaks that pose a bit over there. You wouldn't really have both legs go out straight like that. I mean, you could have the one, but it also snaps straight very quickly. So also, again, good opportunity for an arc here that's missed. And I wouldn't have both straightened like that. His whole body at the moment looks a little unnatural, so you have the other one sort of bent backwards like this if you want this one to straighten there. And then over here, he kind of, it's almost like he's doing a little jig. But he sort of rights himself a little too quickly over here. Like he would land because he's had a lot of speed behind him here. He had a near-death experience at the corner over there. You know, things are still moving fast. He just scored such a great touchdown and he just kind of quickly stands up. So he would still be kind of riding on that momentum over here and take a little bit longer just to like rectify everything. So he would actually take a few more steps. He would take that step and another step probably, and then he would slowly come around. And that would also actually make this a lot easier if you carried this through. If this foot stepped forward again, facing forward, oh gosh, what am I even doing here? Ugh, I can draw, I promise. So this foot carries through into another step because then his hips are kind of primed to then turn towards the camera. But at the moment, it's a bit of an awkward step that he takes over there. And the way he kind of swivels his foot like that, it just doesn't seem like a natural way to sort of turn forward like that. And it's a little bit rigid. I like that deep puff of breath he takes at the end. It's a very taxing exercise he just did. So again, I like the camera moves. It's dynamic. You didn't keep a locked off camera again, which is very good. And that's a tip for anyone out there who is preparing their reel or anything. Try to have a bit of, you know, camera movement and stuff in your reel because it will make your shots look quite a bit more dynamic. So thank you, Paulo. These are great shots and you've got a lot of potential. Good luck on your animation journey. I hope that these critiques helped you a bit so that you can have a really great reel going forward. You guys are free to submit on the submission form, the rookie submission form. It's like a Google form. You can ask on the Discord as well about that. And I am doing reviews. I try to do them every week. Sometimes work doesn't allow for that, but it is what I'm aiming to do. So thank you for watching. I hope that was helpful to Paulo and also to the people just watching for your own knowledge to look for these sorts of things going forward when you're doing your own animated shots. Oh, I got some comments. Last time I didn't reply to comments because I was really nervous, to be honest with you. And I just said bye and like peaced out. So I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to be rude. But I will reply to comments now. I see Bjorn said maybe then the pebble hits him, he would go from hero to a more relaxed kid pose. That's a great idea for that other one. That's a really good idea. I agree with that because he's kind of like, yeah, I'm the man. And then, you know, he's kind of taken back. His ego is taken back a notch. He's like, check yourself before you wreck yourself, bro. So that's a great suggestion, Bjorn. Yeah, I agree with that. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you have a good rest of your week. Cheers.